Hello friends and welcome. Patch 7.38 Wandering Waters recently came out. So we are going to attempt to summarize the most important parts. It's a huge patch, so I will link the blog post in the description of this video because it is impossible to cover everything. And of course, it's very early into the patch. So I'm not going to try to pretend to know the best heroes and everything, but I will share some of the big changes and what I think is looking good, things to try to do as we explore this new patch. Let's start with some map changes. Roshan, the pit, new location. So in the middle of the map again, kind of where it used to be in the past, and then slightly later in the past, we have the pits in the middle of the rivers. He's going to start in this one at 15 minutes. He will make his way over here, and then after that, every 5 minutes, he'll go back and forth. I don't exactly know why it waits till 15 minutes, but there you go. When he does walk across, he will pick you up and chuck you out of his way. It's pretty funny. Maybe I'll get a clip of that later. But yeah, Roshan in a new pit. He's a little harder to kill. The roar is stronger when you do it like the second time, but besides that, it's mostly the same. Where he used to be, the Twin Gates got shifted over, and the Tormentor is moved over here. There's only going to be one Tormentor now. So the Tormentor here is going to spawn at 15 minutes. It's a little easier to kill than it used to be, and after you kill it, it's actually going to leave a like healing circle for a little bit that will heal you about 30% of your max HP, if I recall. So this is meant to, I think, be a little bit of a trade-off with Roshan. So like at 15 minutes, Roshan goes over here. Potentially a team that goes for an early Roshan could end up losing the Tormentor over here, and the Tormentor still gives the Aghanim Shard, and it now also gives 250 gold per player on your team. So that is about 2,650 gold for securing the Tormentor. What is currently happening at the pro level is that people are picking strong lanes because another change is all this river stuff over here. More on that in a moment. But one such camp right here is an ancient camp. So what pro teams seem to be doing day one of the patch, this might change, but picking strong lanes, especially a carry that can potentially do ancient camps pretty early at like level 5, level 6. And that way, if you have a strong start, you can just hold this part of your map and farm ancient and be pretty happy. Then at around 15 minutes, well, actually we can backtrack a little bit. 14 minutes, you go for the the wisdom runes, which have been changed. They're no longer wisdom runes. These are wisdom shrines, and these are lotus pools. But instead of channeling, what the heck? Instead of channeling on the lotus pools, first click gets it. Same with the wisdom rune. You now have to stand in the circle. And if there's an enemy hero in here, you won't capture it until only one team is in the thing. So this way, you actually have to fight it out to secure these, which I like a lot instead of just being a click war. If you're winning the lane, you are rewarded that when you go fight for the wisdom shrine, you have a better chance of kicking out your opponent and then securing it for yourself. And so that's why a lot of teams are going for strong heroes to start, to have a carry that can farm this stuff, to have a support that can fight for this, to fight for the wisdom runes. And then as you make a team play for the wisdom rune, you then come for the Tormentor at 15. It is 2,650 gold for your team. That is a big jump. Your team hopefully gets a nice Aghanim Shard. Then you can go for the Roshan at some point, depends on the draft, right? But the usual Roshan, somewhere between like 15, 25 minutes, the first one, as a team's lineup is able to do it. And then there's a cycle between doing Rosh and doing Tormentors to just keep growing a lead. The off-lane jungle is mostly the same. The camps where the Lotus got changed, so this is a hard camp and a medium camp instead of an ancient camp. It's the safe lane jungle that really got changed up, all these waterways in here. So there's a hard camp here, and then there are some new amphibian camps. It's going to start as a small, medium camp, and they actually get upgraded over time until they eventually reach a hard ancient camp, which is pretty cool. The waterways also give you a move speed bonus when you walk along the water. There's no negative when you go against the river, which I don't know how I feel about. I kind of think there should be. But in the strong current, you get 150 move speed walking this way. And then I think once you go down this waterfall or any of this stuff, I think these are 100. I'm still kind of learning exactly where the different waters come from. But yeah, you see my move speed dropped a little bit. Here's the small camp that will be upgraded. And then here is the ancient camp. As an aside, I think Veno Jungle is completely legit, but you're gonna need a team to run it with. Neutral items also got reworked, so there's now a material called Madstone, and when you kill jungle camps, you're going to get 2 Madstones for yourself, 1 for a random ally. If you kill Ancients, 3 for yourself, 2 split between 2 random allies. So once you collect enough Madstone, which depends on the tier, I'll show you a graphic later that they have, you pick which neutral. There's less neutrals than there were before, and you're gonna get for the first tier, you get 4 options. For the next tier, tier 2, you get 3 options of tier 2 artifacts, and then you also get the option to keep the one you currently have. These will have the various effects. For example, if you remember Orb of Destruction, it has the negative armor, but none of these have stats. So like Gossamer Cape used to have move speed. It doesn't have that anymore. It only has the dodge and attack like every 6 seconds effect. And then you get to choose an enchantment that you want. So maybe you're a carry and you want this Orb of Destruction, but you also want to have lifesteal. Great. Maybe you just want to tank up, so you take this one. Maybe you're a support, so you want to survive. You want like Essence Ring to convert mana to health, and then because you're dying a lot, you get more health. Or maybe that's enough for you, and you're like, ooh, I want that GPM that used to be on Philosopher's Stone, right? So now you get to like pick and choose, which is a cool idea. If it ends up being balanced, I'm not fully sure, but that is where our neutral system is now. You'll be able to see your team kind of like go through the different neutrals, what they have upgraded to. If you come to the demo mode, go over to the neutrals, you can see all of it over here if you want to explore some of the different neutrals. You don't usually have all of these options. It's just because it's demo mode. Usually it would just show you like your 4 options and then 4 random enchantments like you saw in the picture just before. So there is still a little bit of RNG to it, but because you get to pick and choose which ones you want, it seems like you'll be able to craft what you need based on the game. I've only played a couple games so far, so I'm not sure if I like how exactly I feel of, do I get screwed by RNG, or it's robust enough that every game seems good enough. We'll see over time, but this is the new way the neutrals work. Another major change you want to be aware of is many universal heroes are no longer universal. They went back to their original attributes. We used to have an even split between the 4, and now it is universal has the least heroes. A couple heroes became universal, such as Death Prophet, but these universal heroes, the damage per attribute is being changed from 0.7 down to 0.45, the amount of damage they got. When it was at 0.7, we had many heroes who were universal who could sort of become carries, and you could build whatever and get damage from it, such as Magnus and Lycan. You also saw some crazy stuff like Beastmaster being a very strong offlaner, and then like someone like Amaze like playing it like a carry because the universal stat growth is just really good. It's of course different from traditional carries, but many universal heroes were very, very strong. So a lot of them have been rebalanced. Most heroes ended up with similar level 1 damage. You'll have to check your own favorite heroes to see if that's true for a particular hero, but many ended up at the same starting damage, but ended up, as you level up, with less damage due to this change, even as the stat growth was like rebalanced. There are a lot of random quality of life changes in here, and to keep this video not 7 hours, that's how long the original patch read was, which if you want, you can find in the VODs under the live tab of this channel. I don't want to do another 7-hour video, so I'm not going to cover every single quality of life change here. There's none that are game changing that I think suddenly you need to build a brand new habit around. So like I said, you know, feel free to read through it yourself. A useful change for core players to maybe become familiar with is that lifesteal kind of became standardized. There was a lot of like different rules between stuff. It's a little bit more standardized. It will typically do less to creeps. I believe in just about every case, you can assume that it is reduced by 40% when damaging non-heroes. This line right here, I think there, as Dota goes, there are probably going to be some specific cases that eventually break out of that, but that's where it is for now. So for example, you get 10 lifesteal, 10% lifesteal from something, 10% lifesteal versus heroes, 6% lifesteal versus everything else. Something else worth mentioning is that the Lotus pools, They mostly function the same at the start of the game, besides the thing I talked about where you have to like contest the other heroes, be the only one standing in there. But after the tier 4 neutrals become available at 35 minutes, the lotuses will now spawn great lotuses, which is like when you combine 3 lotuses to the big one. And then after the tier 5 neutrals at 60 minutes, it'll spawn the greater lotus, which is the 6 little ones, 2 of the bigger ones, and then now you get like the biggest, chunkiest, greater lotus. That isn't going to massively change the game, but maybe puts more emphasis on grabbing these lotuses, and it will make block of cheese a little easier to secure, which they're also changing the way it works. It now is like a mega cheese, and then the barrier only lasts for 5 minutes, which I say just leave it in. We've barely gotten to explore that item, but whatever. This is the new block of cheese. You might see it in more of your games because of that Lotus Pool change, so I just wanted to throw it out there so you guys are aware of it. As far as item changes go, bottle. This is a pretty big change for mid players because you can no longer do the bottle refill trick where you TP, like the support TPs from the fountain to the mid to refill the bottle. So don't bother trying. When mid players flame you, you know they didn't read the patch notes. This will eventually lead to a shift in what heroes are played mid, I think, just because there was a lot of extra resources you could get from this trick at high levels of Dota play. So the meta mid heroes will shift accordingly. In many of your pub games, bottle refilling never even happened, and you still played whatever mid you liked. So this probably won't really affect the majority of Dota players all too much, but I would say Archon and higher, it will shift, and then after whatever the pros settle on being the best mid heroes, that will slowly shift down to your pubs, and it'll be directly connected to the bottle, no longer being refillable. We have a new starting orb. It's called Orb of Frost. I think it's pretty cool. It works as the slow from Orb of Venom, but it's based on the target rather than the user. So if your target is ranged, it's a 13% slow, 5% if they are melee. This makes it way more valuable for ranged heroes compared to what Orb of Venom was, and it's only 250 gold. It also reduces healing by 13%, and it lasts for 3 seconds. So I'm very interested in this item. A lot of people are trying it out right now in terms of extra aggressive potential, just like make the tangos worth less, constantly poke, people can't get away from you if you're a ranged hero, even some melee heroes if you want to play aggressive, and it's cheaper. Orb of Blight, formerly known as Blightstone, this is 300 gold. Orb of Venom's actually being bumped up to 350 gold, and don't be baited by this, guys. I don't think this is that good. So the damage per second is being bumped up to 10, and it lasts for 3 seconds. That sounds awesome. 9-second cooldown, and you can't choose when you use it. So like if you hit a creep and it's up, that's your 9-second cooldown, 30 extra damage on the creep. I'm personally not convinced this is going to be great to pick up early in the lane for supports. I think for cores who are going to use it to build into stuff, it might be good. But for a lot of you guys who are support players, if you're following this channel, Orb of Frost, very interesting. I'm going to explore it on a lot of heroes if I get the chance. Abyssal Blade is being reworked to be built out of Sange instead of Vanguard. Its stats are being adjusted as such. I expect to see more cores, especially carries, build Abyssal Blade than they did before. Battle Fury is a little cheaper, but does a bit less damage. I think that's overall a buff, but I'm not a carry player, so I don't really know. Bloodstone has a basic dispel that's really annoying to deal with. People who like Bloodstone often were weak to Spirit Vessel, and now there's a level of counterplay to that. Bit unfortunate, but also Bloodstone's not the most popular. It's like really good on certain heroes, but not on many, so I don't know how big of an issue this will be, but just something to be aware of. Many of these other changes are not that big of a deal. Halberd, though, is one to be aware of. This is now being built out of Vanguard, and it's much cheaper, 2,600 gold as a total cost. Expect to see a lot of offlaners build this, but I'm guessing certain supports, melee initiators, if you want to make the full value out of the Vanguard, something like Clockwork potentially, might build this. We're very early into the patch. I don't know if that's going to be true, but certain games where you want that disarm, 2,600 gold is pretty affordable. Now, be aware this is dispellable now, so if they have a Manta, something like that, they can remove it. But I think that's kind of fair, right? Because it is becoming much cheaper. If it was undispellable, that might be a bit too strong. So I have my eyes on this item. I think it could be very good on the right heroes. Gleipnir's also being changed. It's not going to build out of Maelstrom anymore. This was a really good item for certain cores, but it was very hard to balance. It was either everyone's building Gleipnir and it defines the meta, or it was nerfed and it's like did nothing. So it's not going to build out of Maelstrom anymore. It is Atos, point booster, and a recipe. It's much cheaper, and it will increase your AoE bonus. So, for example, Leshrac might get this. Get an Atos, use it to set up his stun, get kills, finish the Gleipnir. Now he can set up his AoE stun on multiple heroes, something like that. It doesn't have the like Maelstrom effects anymore, so it's not as good on right clickers. I imagine it will be more of a spellcaster item. Not fully sure who's going to end up being like definitive Gleipnir builders, but I see a lot of people exploring it. It's a very interesting item right now. Konda's also being reworked, so instead of being built out of a Crystallis, it is more of a spellcaster item, so it's a Phylactery, Tiara, and then a recipe. So it's actually very expensive now, 5,900. The cooldown is much longer too because of the Phylactery change is going from 6 to 12 seconds, which is a big nerf in my opinion. And then the Konda's then also 12 seconds. It now breaks. So this is like the spellcaster's break source. Many spellcasters didn't want to build Silver Edge. So an interesting idea. Seems really expensive to need a break, and you're like, 6,000 gold, that's kind of a lot. But I like the idea of not being deleted by Tinies and Morphlings and Lunas with like a single spell. So I'm certainly open to the idea. I suspect this might need some balancing changes just because I think it currently costs too much for what it is. Revenant's Brooch is being reworked. It's going to be a lot cheaper to build now. It's being built out of the Crystallis Voodoo Mask. It is essentially the same concept. It no longer hits ethereal units, but it is turning a percentage of your physical damage into magic damage when you attack. I believe there are several bugs around Revenant's Brooch right now, so if it seems to be way too good, it probably is because it's bugged. So once all those are fixed and we see where it actually ends up, we'll get a better feel for the item, but expect to see a lot more of this item as they, try to rework it and fine tune it. I don't want to read through every single new neutral artifact, or some are old, so check this out yourself, but I do want to just highlight a couple that the pros seem to be drawn to right now. First off, Mana Draft, really good for anyone who has a lot of mana needs, and you can use it on allies as well. So it might be nice to have like one of these on the team. Otherwise, a lot of people are going for the trusty shovel right now. It does everything it used to. It's just a great item. You just get to dig stuff up. Still very useful. A lot of people like that for the tier 1 right now. That's not saying people aren't trying the other stuff, like for example, right-clicking cores like Orb Destruction, but Trusty Shovel is the most popular from what I saw while casting. For tier 2 neutrals, Brigand's Blade for anyone doing right-clicks seems really good. Anyone who needs survivability, Essence Ring is back, so you turn some of your mana into health, big mana or big health burst in the middle of a team fight. That's really useful, so a lot of people like this one. Iron Talent for farming. Searing Signet being explored by certain spellcasters to boost your damage, especially anyone with AoE who can apply this to multiple units all at once, can boost your teamfight damage or your farming speed. Tier 3, Gale Guard. A lot of free survivability on this. It is a all damage barrier that just pops up, also gives you some slow resistance, no mana cost, has a 30-second cooldown, but this one seems really good to me. Of course, if you want damage, then like Nemesis Curse is in here. You want to like sneak around the map, Ninja Gear. Serrated Shiv for anyone who attacks really fast and applies a lot of on-hit effects. This one has seemed pretty good. That's actually all I have to say about that one. Crippling Crossbow for high healing heroes. Other than that, there's still some exploration being found here. Not as many games, start to last here very long. I didn't even see any that go into the tier 6, so I don't have a bunch of thoughts on that. In terms of the enchantments, a lot of people like the Brawny and the Mystical. Extra health and health regen, extra mana, and magic resistance on this. Of course, you just pick whatever you need, you know, so if you do think you need like attack speed, damage, whatever, feel free to grab those. I see a lot of people exploring this greedy enchantment, which is pretty much old Philosopher's Stone, but just keep in mind it's going up to 60 negative attack damage if you choose the tier 3 enchantment version of this, which is quite a lot. So just make sure you're picking it on the heroes that don't need to auto attack. There's like cast range stuff in here. Vampiric, I'm sure, is going to be very good for cores who want that. Things like Stunners have the debuff amplification, Titanic for like status resistance, a new source of that, and base attack damage that used to be an old neutral item coming in as an enchantment. Many of these are. Haven't really seen as many of the like tier 5, so I'm not going to talk too much on that right now. The new camps are called Flooded Camps. You don't have to think too hard on it. They do have their own abilities, such as an aura that boosts movement speed and outgoing if the aura holder, so either the creeps or like a Doom eats it, is standing in water. Big aura boost. I expect to see pro teams make use of that. These guys upgrade over time. The important thing here is that they are adorable. Look at this guy, little Poliwag, little Boglet. They're so cute. Prowlers are back too, by the way, but they are nerfed, so they don't destroy you in the ancient camps as much, but they are still strong. Watch out for them. If I try to dive into every single hero, this video will go on forever, so I'm just going to show you the overall trends. Remember, we're very early into the patch. Some of these heroes are doing well or poorly because bugs are affecting them. Some of them are just because they seem good and they're understood now. Others are going to have to be explored and like, oh, this is the broken build, right? So don't be super set in stone on this, but I know you guys always ask. So Dragonite, he is being reworked because he's been so popular, but the way they changed it is that now when he ults, he gets the splash damage regardless, and then the exact effects depend on what facet. So I've heard everyone say like, oh, the new red facet's still really good. Oh, the corrosive facet's now really good. Oh, frost facet, you can finally do this and it's really good. Everyone is finding success with all of them. So I actually think just the core hero got overbuffed, and now all the facets sound good on paper, which is actually the ideal way to do it. It just shouldn't be 10 whopping win percentage points to like a 58. If you play core, go play Dragonite. He's really good right now. Just go look up like what builds people are doing. Meepo, Darkseer got some buffs. I mean, obviously, again, we can't go into all of these, so let's just focus on some supports since that's the focus of the channel typically. Mirana, she might actually end up being a core again. We'll see, but she did get reworked with a new facet. Her innate's still around Lotuses, which I don't know. It's at least a lot better, and with the Lotus change, maybe it'll be better too. But she's much better at trading in the lane with Starstorm now because of the new facet she got. Winter Wyvern changed back to intelligence. Her actual right-clicking will be worse, but I think her lane looks stronger, and her new facet, recursive, is looking to be pretty strong. Jakira's old facets essentially got given to him for free, and you can use them one and then the other. If you get the Agnum Shard, they are separate cooldowns. So that's been a really nice buff to him. And then your new facets, either you get an extra controllable stun on Ice Path, or there's like a right-click build facet. I don't know how good that's actually going to be in the end, but seems very fun to explore as a core Jakiro. Now, I think this is probably off of core Leshrak's win rate going up, but I actually think support Leshrak will have a place as well, because if you think back to the way Lotus Pools and the Wisdom Shrines now work, strong fighting potential away from creeps is really strong now, because you have to sit in the pool in the shrine to actually get the objective, and you have to kick out the enemy. So simply getting there and winning the click war is no longer acceptable. So when like Leshrak support goes there with Diabolic Edict versus an Ancient Apparition support goes in there, who do you think is going to win that? I think because of that, some strong supports like Leshrak or maybe Clockwork, maybe a strong laner like Jakiro who got buffed, I could see a lot of them finding early success in this patch right now because they can secure those objectives, and then they have a strong lane, and then they can come online early to go for that early Tormentor, snowball the lead, Roshan Tormentor, repeat. To wrap up this video, I just want to point out a couple things on the new map in regards to blocking, unblocking camps, and early observers. I will try to get a video out on observer locations because this is a huge new map. I don't think that's going to happen for a while, though. It's going to take some time. But at least for the starting observers, I know a lot of you used to just grab the observer and then like place it somewhere around here in the lane, somewhere here in the lane. And I used to tell you guys like that's not that great because of the way the sentry placements are. A lot of those will die very easily. That is even more true now, guys. This area has been shrunk down. All the camps are unblockable with a single sentry. So like the small camp, single sentry. Don't go wasting sentry placements and then needing 2 sentries. Hard camp, same deal. So this one got shrunk, so now a single sentry covers the whole thing. And if you go through this like, oh, maybe they'll put the sentry here, maybe they'll put it here, maybe they'll put it here. You do that for all the camps, you'll see that this entire thing is very likely to accidentally be dewarded. Like a position 4, just dropping their sentry like here, look, it'll get all this stuff. So I really don't recommend you put your observers in this area anymore, especially on this new map. And I actually recommend you either, like if you want it in the lane, just drop it in the lane, especially towards the twin gate, because the twin gate's right here. And I really think if you have a good lane, for example, the lane is pushed up, so you do a pull for your carry, and then immediately bolt over here without the enemy noticing, and then you go through the twin gate, you're going to pop out here, and if the lane is pushed up just a little bit, boom, you're straight in. You no longer have to do this like whole wrap around thing with like, oh, I was on that cliff, I got to go around, all this loop. It was really awkward. It happened, but it was awkward. I think people are going to try to do it more now because of the way the layout works. Once people get used to laning and the new heroes and all that, you'll see these rotations around again. So I actually think observers in this area at the start of the game are going to be a little bit more worthwhile than they were before. I also want to give you guys a real cracked block camp spot. The issue is that supports will not be able to do this because you need a quelling blade. But for any of you that play party, if you can get your carry to cut this tree right here, this one that's being highlighted is in the very top corner, it will open up this corner of the box to block. If you put it there, the enemy, unless they put their sentry here, will not have vision. And if they do that, it won't get this corner, so they won't cover the full box. Though maybe they'll just have to do it anyways. There's no way to get back here without using tangos or quelling blades to cut through this. So for example, you could cut this tree and then get through there, but they have to know about that. And because we're so early in the patch, I'm guessing a lot of people will not, and they'll run around here and they'll be really confused about where it is. So this is going to be a really powerful spot to block if your carry is starting with a quelling blade and you can get them to cut that tree. If not, it doesn't really matter where you put them right now. I was looking for like sneaky locations and all that. But because a single sentry now covers the entire box, there's no like min-maxing it really. You can put it in annoying spots, right? Like if you're blocking this camp, you can put it as far back as possible to make the 5 have to walk all the way over there. Same with over here. Like if you're blocking this camp, you could put it like back here. There's a spot somewhere. Okay. Maybe we can't anymore. I thought I found one earlier. Whatever. There's no little like pocket thing in here anymore. So just go ahead and block the camp wherever. Same deal over here. There's like some tree line stuff you can do, but ultimately they will circle around and they will find it. Something to note over here for the safe lane, when you're unblocking this camp, if you want to put your sentry over here, you'll unblock your camp and it'll be all the way up here. So if the enemies later try to contest this camp and block it again, they're going to have to spend time like walking all the way over here, which will, it's easier than it was before, but it's still a bit of a pain. So if you want to go ahead and use this spot when you're unblocking your small camp, that could be good. And the final thing to wrap up, some heroes I have my eyes on, not because I think they're going to be the best supports, all of them, but I just find them interesting. These are heroes I have in mind. I genuinely think Venomancer Jungle is going to be incredibly strong if you have a offlaner or a carry who can play the 1v2. Someone like maybe Night Stalker with Night Reigns could do it. I might explore this if I can. But if you have a party stack you play with, I really think this will be actually quite good. I think Jakiro support's good. I think Abaddon support will still be strong. I'm going to explore this idea of like Leshrac support. Do some wacky stuff like CK maybe. Dazzle's new ult looks interesting. Fine Art didn't really get buffed, but other parts of him got changed, so I want to try him. Techie seems really good with the mines, placing them around the new Twin Gate location. That seems very strong. He's better in the lane now too. Some of the other stuff is just stuff I'm interested in, not because I think they're particularly good. So we don't have to go into every single one, but there you go, in case you guys are wondering. All right, thanks for watching. Let me know if there's any broken stuff that you think is really good. It's going to take me forever to explore. Like, even look at this, right? I've already got a handful of things to look at, and I'm sure there's way more out there. So if you've got something that's like crazy good, please let me know in the comments down below. I'll try to get to it before it gets patched out, you know, with like whatever early bound stuff we get. Thanks. Bye.